What's up, guys? Matt here, coming at you with another quick video. This one is on something I've seen a lot of people talking about and asking about lately, so I thought I would get one and check it out. This is the Bastens quad steer. It's a four-wheel steering controller, basically. There's several different brands out there, and this is just one that was on Amazon. I could get it quick, so I picked it up to do a little review on. Basically what it is this little thing here and a couple wires. So I figured we'd see how easy this would be. Supposedly you can just hook this up on your stock transmitter and receiver and have four-wheel steering, selectable four-wheel steering, not just the stuff you can put on the channel 3 here where it's full left, full right. It's supposed to be all of your modes, crab crawl and all that stuff. So curious to see how it works. I picked this C10 to put it on. I don't really want four-wheel steering on this. I have four-wheel steering on the two vehicles that I plan to have it on. So honestly, this is just to test this, really. This truck, I grabbed it because it's still all stock, basically. As far as electronics and stuff go, it does have the Reefs 99 servo on the front and wheels and tires. And then I put the Power Hobby shocks on there. I bought those just to test, really, and see if they were the same as hot racing, that sort of thing. I'm running the stamped steel beadlock wheels on here. You can see with the hex mounted backwards. So they got the deep dish look and they set wide. That's why the truck's sitting as wide as it is. But other than that, I've put some magnets on for the body mount, and that's it. So really what we need for this is this controller, this front axle setup, and then I'm just going to use one of my stock servos I have sitting around to throw on there to kind of see how this goes. So we'll get started with it. I'll break a little bit of this apart and show you what we're going to do. See, I'm running the little brass hex on this truck. They're not bad. I really just got them to kind of try out, and they work pretty well. I get tired of the little plastic hex. Get stuck in these wheels sometimes and just a little bit of a pain. So I thought I would try these brass. You get a little bit of weight plus a more sturdy hex, I guess. So it's a pretty simple job. You have your upper links. So let's get the rear off. Super simple. Pull the drive shaft here, put it on, and that's it. This goes a certain way. You'll see it fits on there one way. So what I do here, because this front is made, hopefully you can see that, with this piece, it's made for the triangular link. Like your front has this triangular piece. So it's made for a 3-link to go in there. I just put these on the outside and run a screw in. So like that. So you can see there how those bottom links are on the outside here instead of that triangular piece. Now get these in before this stuff moves too much. All right, we'll grab a servo. Then I'm going to use these screws that came with this here for the servo. Let's go ahead and put our shocks back. We know where everything's going to be. Okay, so what you end up with, you have your original front servo runs to what they have labeled as FR on this little switch. So it's going to run to it. It has your little plus minus on there for negative, positive, how they are supposed to be plugged in. Your rear servo is going to go to what they have marked as like a RR. Okay, then these up here, one of them's labeled channel 1, one of them's labeled channel 3. Channel 1 is going to be your front servo, your original servo going to the STR. So channel 1 into the STR. Channel 3 on the switch is your rear servo, so that's going to go to your aux. Okay, so the best thing to do is get this all plugged in. Turn it on and see what you have. Then I turned it to front steer only and kind of set my rear servo straight. That's the main issue with this controller. You don't have trim adjustment for your rear. So you're definitely going to want to glue this stock servo saver together, because without it glued, it's even harder to get it centered, and it don't want to stay centered at all. It don't come back to center very well. So I would glue it if you're going to use the stock servo. I would also recommend to just not use the stock servo at all. If it's doing okay for you on the front, just leave it on there. Get you a new one for the back. If you want to spend the money, I'd replace them both. Trying to get this straight, the rear straight. You can still see it's off a little. It's tracking to the right a tiny bit. I actually stripped out this stock servo. The inside, this screw won't even screw in there anymore. So there's it, and the spring just laying there. Because I've tried to move this so many times, it's insane. So you can just kind of get it somewhat close like that. You can adjust the rear if you get it on rear steer only, like there. You can use your trim to adjust it, straighten it out a little. The problem is when you do that, when you go back to front steer, your front's going to be off a little bit because it changes it. So really, a better servo would probably help it center better. Also, these stock links suck. They're not very helpful in getting your steering centered either. So I feel like that would track straight enough. You could drive and be okay. So the way this is set up, mine is only in the center and to the right. So in the center right now, I am front steering. When I flip the switch to the right, it changes the mode to crab crawl. Then I'll go back to center. That changes it again. Now it's rear steer only. Then I'll go back to the right. To the left does nothing. Back to the right. Four-wheel steering. Back to the center. Back to front. So that's really, it's a really good option. The easiest, cheapest way to get four-wheel steering. Well, I won't say the easiest, cheapest. I guess plugging in an extension, and I'll show you in a minute what that does. Just plugging in an extension into a rear servo, straight into your aux port. You can get rear steer that way on the stock controller, but it's kind of useless, and I'll show you in a minute why. So this is the easiest, cheapest way to get rear steer, like real rear steering, four-wheel steering, that sort of thing. Because with this, you have full adjustment. Okay, as I turn this wheel, you can see that will go. You know, you have your fully proportional steering there. Okay. And look, so that just fell off because, like I said, I stripped the screw out. And back to front steer. So this is it's a good option. Just know it's not perfect. Okay. If you can get things centered up, it'll work, and it'll probably work decent enough with the way the rear is right there. You can see it's a little off. You can adjust that, but it's just always a tiny bit off because based on the splines there, you can't always get that centered up just perfect. And that's where a trim comes in handy. You know, you can adjust that trim a little bit and get it exact. If you don't mind that being off just a tiny bit, I think you can see that. I can definitely see it. Let's see how bad it. So it's not like tracking horribly. If you can live with that, then, you know, this is a great option. I'll put a link to this controller in the description. I just wanted to show how it worked, what it did. It's a little confusing to set up. There are instructions here. But it's not impossible. You just plug everything in, like I said, and then kind of work with it. You'll see when it comes on, if you're in front steer, it says to flip it, give it a minute, and it'll kind of program itself or whatever to a mode, and then just flip it again. And that way you can go through all your modes, flip it back. Okay. So definitely the best cheap option. The only other way to get any better is to change out the ESC, because you have to change the receiver. I run the FlySky GT5 in like this. Okay, this has the four-wheel steering. And so with it, I can run it to where I can put it on this crawl mode. And if I want front steer, that's front steer. If I want to go rear steer, I just roll that to B while I'm driving. If I want crab crawl, go to the C. Okay. Rear steer, or I'm sorry, four-wheel steering is there. So you can just change it out just like that. So if you, whatever you want to go through. Me personally, I don't run it like that even. I prefer mine to be on this dial. So my rear steer is on this dial. So as I'm driving, I can use the wheel and kind of lightly
hit that also. So a lot of times I'll be driving like this and kind of, it seems like it would be really hard, but it works because you just normally barely need a little bit in that rear. And that's where the simple solution that everybody talks about really does me no good. So let's say you didn't have this controller. This is what a lot of people I see do. And I did this at first and I just couldn't stand it, so I did away with it. So say you don't have this controller. Your front is plugged into your steer. Not taking time to look at it. Okay, so you have your front steer. You added a front axle in the back, servo in the back. You'll need, I'll put the parts list of everything. You'll need this front axle. Okay. You can get that part number. You'll need that set up. It comes with the axles, everything. Then you'll need your a servo, and that comes with the links. Okay, so you'll need your servo and an arm, depending on what servo you go with. Most of them come with something. You can see that Reefs 99 had just something with it. And then you'll need, if you're using a stock servo in the rear like this, you will need an extension. Most of them, like this Reefs, it's pretty long. So say you were adding it to the back, it would probably reach, but it might not be a bad idea to get one of these extensions. So you can plug this extension in. And I'm a little bit colorblind, so it's kind of hard for me to tell what I'm doing with these most of the time. And then you'll plug into your aux. And what that does is, and again, that's off. So what you want to do is make sure your switch is in the center. Your channel 3 switch is in the center right there. And then put your arm on, trying to keep your wheels halfway straight. Then you'll want to put your screw in. My screw is not going to work because it's stripped. I normally, even though I glue this servo saver, and if I haven't mentioned that already, definitely just glue that. It works much better. So normally you'll see when you take this apart, this is a 2-piece arm. Take some crazy glue or something. I can't even think of. I use tire glue. Works great. Glue that together, and then I usually leave the spring on it and just screw it in, but this one's stripped, so it's not going to do any good. But if you don't leave that spring on there, this screw's too long. So anyways, that all varies if you're putting a different servo on the back, totally different. But anyways, I think you can figure that out. With this in the center, you've got that set up. So when you flip the switch to the right, you're going to have full turn that way. Back to the center is dead center. The other direction is full turn that way. So to me, that it's just not very useful when you're climbing. You know, usually if you're in a bad spot and you need just a little bit of rear steer, you need just a little bit of rear steer, not full on. Yeah, you can make it work, but it was just aggravating for me. Most of the time it messed me up when I was in a tight spot. You know, if you just needed a little bit, because sometimes this rear tire might just be dangling on something, you know, on the edge of something like this, and I just need a tiny bit to help me get where I need to be, but not enough to drop this off the ledge, okay? And then this thing goes like complete one way or the other, and if this wasn't moving, it just like falls off, you know what I mean? So being able to slightly turn the rear is a real advantage versus this setup. But this is definitely the cheapest, easiest solution. So if you don't like how the controller works, I think this was like $35 or something off of Amazon. Then you can always do this. So I'll put a link to this controller in there. I'll try to find an extension, and then this front axle assembly that comes with everything you need. So yeah, that's pretty much it on the 4-wheel steering. Like I said, you can set it up a million different ways, really. This one, I'll just show you how it is real quick without putting this body and everything on. And I've got my dial all out of whack. So at first I had this set up to where, like I said, when I would switch these modes, it would just change my mode. And that works pretty good. But for me, I just prefer being able to control it how I want without having to cycle through stuff. You know, I don't have to stop driving, reach up here, turn to 4-wheel steer, turn to crab crawl, whatever. So I just have what I want right here all the time. So I can kind of adjust this as I'm driving. If I just want to steer with the rear, I can just use this knob. So it's a little tricky to get used to driving like this. I use my pinky mostly for the front, and then these 2 fingers up here. So I kind of drive like this and this when I really need the 4-wheel steering in a tight spot. And that's the thing, the biggest part of the time I'm not going to use it unless I'm just in one of those little tight spots where I need to be going slow and kind of easing around something or whatever. That's why I don't like it to just be full one way, full the other. You know, I have basically infinite adjustment here. So it'll do whatever. I'm actually running the Savox 0257 on the front and rear of this rig. I had one already. The 0255 has a little more torque, but I already had one of these, and so I just bought another one to match. That way it was matched, and it turns the slingers good. You can see this is a rubber mat. You get a decent amount of resistance on this rubber mat, and it has no problem turning those. And the rears here, I'm running bogger foams in this tire, so you can kind of see it sets a little lower. You get a little bit of that tire give. The front, I may end up changing them out. I used the stock in there because I wanted to keep my turning. Sometimes with a softer foam, you lose turning radius. So I tried to keep it like that where I was getting traction with the rear. You can see how it sits a little more flat. I may end up switching the front as well because I think that works pretty good. And it has no problem turning it with a little more give in the tire. But anyways, that's you have to change your ESC and then get something like the FlySky GT5 to be able to do that. So not everybody wants to do that, and that's why I showed these other 2 options. Sorry this video is getting so long, but trying to go through all the 4-wheel steering options. The quickest, easiest, simplest is definitely this. It's just not real useful. In my opinion, but maybe that's all you need, and if so, then that's awesome. You don't have to spend much money. But for me, if I wasn't changing ESC, I'd definitely go with this. I'll put a link to it. Like I said, it came from Amazon. It's the Bastens. There's also one called the HeyOK 4-wheel steer controller. So HeyOK, HeyOK is basically the same thing as this. I just bought this one because it was on Amazon. I could get it quicker. So that's really all of the 4-wheel steer options. I mean, obviously you don't have to use the GT5 if you're going another route. You can use whatever, as long as the transmitter has the 4-wheel steer capability or another channel, whatever. But these are the 2 easiest options. I just kind of wanted to show. I see a lot of people asking about these and how to put 4-wheel steer on them, and it's super simple if you want to do it like this. Like I said, it's just not all that useful. This is definitely the best bet if you're not changing your ESC. So, sorry I've rambled on forever. I appreciate everybody watching. If you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget to like the Facebook and the Instagram page. It's just 2FMRC. Always posting stuff up, doing this or that. Got a ton of stuff coming up. Always something with these 24 scales. Always something. So I appreciate everybody watching. Peace. Okay, guys. So I just want to say thanks for sticking around to the end. And I got a little surprise for you. I'm going to give away this controller. So all you have to do is like the video, subscribe, and comment on the video what your favorite SCX24 is and why you like that particular model. And then I will give each comment a number, and then Monday around 10 a.m. Central Time, give or take, my work schedule is never the same, so just whenever I can be home and do it, we will do a giveaway. I'll do a random number drawing and pick a winner. So I appreciate everybody, and I hope you enjoy this video, and hopefully you'll win the 4-wheel steer setup. Peace.